Hello and welcome to the weekly GCN webinar. To take my class and learn more about how to be a working actor, please go to the link over there. There it is. There it is. Please go to that link. All right, now on with the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly GetCast Now Business of the Business webinar. This week, we have another very special guest for all of you. Everyone meet Chris Reed Brown, Christopher Reed Brown, or just Chris as I know him. We met when we were in school at NYU together. So Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Caroline. Thank you for having me.
So yes, we met when we were doing a Shakespeare program abroad in London through NYU. And since then, to me, it seems like Chris has been working nonstop. He's super humble, so he's gonna, probably give us a dose of reality along with that. But he has appeared in national commercials. He has worked regionally. He has been on network television. He's done some print modeling, and we were going to talk about all of that. Yeah, right. You need to hear all of the things you've done. Sometimes it's nice. You're also very politically active in New York City, and you can tell everybody what you've been doing lately. Let me not explain it for you.
I just saw this woman, Kristen Richardson Jordan, who's running for District 9 City Council. We're all kind of anxiously anticipating the results tonight.
Yes, oh my gosh, big day, big
RSVP,
day.
which is, yeah. The ranked choice comes out tonight, so a lot can be determined on it, and the absentee is not in yet, but a lot can be determined on this. But she, was just somebody I saw in a rally, and politics have always been something interesting, but never something like and I think activism is kind of finding those people and helping those people in politics.
Well, you made a really funny joke when you reposted on Instagram, and you were saying, you were making a funny joke about the tie between activism and acting. But talk more about that, because last week on the webinar, we had Katie Oxman, who had some really wonderful things to say. And we've been talking about it a bit on social media too, about just not being afraid to pursue our other passions and our other interests, and how it doesn't make us any less of an artist. It 9 times out of 10 makes us a better artist. So what do you think is the connection there? Because I know a bunch of people that are in the theater community that we've done work with, who we went to school with, who are very politically active as well. So what do you think that connection is?
The reality for a lot of people that, I think the one thing in the middle of the Venn diagram for activism and actors is like being broke. And so you're kind of just doing, doing that at the same time, I think is conducive. And it's also like, it helps me understand like what I really care about and don't really care about. And that helps with acting, because obviously, everything kind of helps with acting. And
do you find that helps when you go into the room, in that you have a lot of other things that you care about? Does that ever help lower the stakes a bit for you when you're going into the room?
Yes and no, because you forget that I go into rooms and just forget that there are things I care more about, and I've just
me too. That happens to me too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But wow, you think this is like the be all end all, and it's just one asset and one part of the beautiful thing that is life, and it's taken over in a lot of people's worlds, like what Hollywood is, or what success is, or like what any kind of not to like soapbox, but
no, but I was gonna say, you were actually telling me the other day that you were talking to another friend of ours who we studied with at NYU, and giving a little bit of a pep talk in terms of just acting not being the be all end all, and just we are full people no matter how many auditions we have, how many jobs we've booked. Just give us a little bit of that, because some of the people watching are still in school or considering drama programs, and I think could probably use some of that advice.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing about this is like longevity and consistency, and knowing that you can book 3 regional shows in a year and not even kind of give yourself credit for it, and then not book for 3 years and almost forget. So like don't let the extremes get you either way. Be the same person through those extremes. You can make $20,000 going like this, and then like you can make $200 doing Othello, or doing playing Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
And commitment, and like giving yourself kudos for commitment is more important than I think giving yourself commitment, kudos to money or to like the success of it. Sometimes you need to know the worth of your work, and it's worth asking for more or not taking. But like it's like that 3 steps, like how much does this heal my heart? How much does this heal my wallet? How much does this like heal the world kind of thing? It
Oh, I've never heard that before.
was like a TikTok. I'm really dead serious. I think it was a TikTok. But
Wow.
and if it meets 2 of the criteria, you probably should take it. If it meets 3, go for it. If it meets 1, don't take it.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's helpful for me too.
I love that. Oh, that's helpful. Yeah. Huh. And so that also makes me think too, I wanted to ask you about this. Again, for people who are watching who are deciding whether to go to school for drama or to just go straight into auditioning, can you tell them a bit about your path? Because I know that before you were a theater major at NYU, you were just at NYU for other things. So just talk about your like, whoa, what called you to be like, wait, I think I'm supposed to be doing this for my career.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because I don't know my answer to this because it vacillates for sure. Because sometimes
Sure.
I'm like, I think sometimes I'm like, what a crapshoot. Theater school isn't worth it,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say that because at the same time, I wouldn't have my understanding of body without theater school. Maybe I could.
That's the thing. Yes, is like we were again. I think this will be a really interesting ongoing conversation on this webinar because we talked about that a bit last week. And I actually am kind of in the same boat where for me, a lot of it was body awareness. So that's the thing is like, I agree. I don't think a degree is the be all end all of your career. I think you can go without one. But but for me specifically, where would I be if I didn't have these very specific things? It's
Right.
interesting.
Whether it's doing it with your high school summer program or it's doing it with, Strasbourg for a season or it's doing it for 4 years or 8 years. It really depends on what the person like really wants because to go to Yale for creative writing might make you exactly the, playwright you want to be mixed with the actor you want to be. And that you can't replace that.
We had someone send in a question, a high school age student, knowing that we both went to NYU, and she wanted to know, she's considering going to the NYU summer program. And she wanted to know, like, is that something I need to do if I want to go to Tisch for acting? And I personally said, no. You might have a different opinion, but I think it's exactly what you said of like, do theater near your hometown during the summer or with your friends. And it's like, it's just as valuable, I think.
Right. Or do Lady Macbeth's monologue on a river while you're doing yoga a billion times. It doesn't need to be at the behest of someone else. Like, I think that's one thing I learned is whether you're in school or you're doing it on your own, it's not really the institution that's giving it to you. It's you that's deciding to take from it and to turn it into what yours is. Because I think so much, it's just like you know, you I don't know what the adage is, but it's like you take more from the moments that you push back than the moments that you take in. Because of course there's so much absorbing, but then there's a moment of like, no, that's my craft. And that's when you find it. When you're like, sometimes it is hearing it and being like, oh wow, that was it. For me, that was London.
You have a very full team of reps and you have a lot of auditions coming. I mean, of course, I know everything ebbs and flows, but generally speaking, knowing, a lot of other people we went to school with, you've got a lot of auditions coming in. And so what's your advice? Like, I'm sure that there are maybe people who are watching who are in the same boat. So how do you like kind of produce the best thing that you can produce and kind of move on afterwards?
I think a lot of it could be caring more about somebody in my ring that I like, or and making sure that's like real and vetted, and leaving people that I didn't like, or having them leave me, like in cases.
Oh, well, not to, we never name names on here, but you and I had the same agent for a while and it was terrible. Um, so
Yeah,
what can you tell people what it's like? What are the feeling that you have with some of the reps you have now when you were in the room and you were like, this is right?
yeah. Trust the vibe they give you. They may not be like the coolest person in the world, or the coolest or like, wow, I want to get a drink with this person. It might not be that, but if they see you the way you want to be seen, it doesn't matter what they're like, really. And I love all my rep. Like, my rep are like, the reason why I say this is because if you're not feeling good and you feel like I can't do this because I'll fall lower, you'll not ever fall lower, ever. Where regardless of where you let go or where you move on, like you're not gonna fall lower because you are you without your rep. But then you get to, if you do move beyond and past, and it's not like in any way I left behind or anyway, it's just diverging, you will find the thing more fitting to you, not necessarily higher or better, because I wouldn't say I did, but more fitting to me. And then I met a manager who was who knew me and saw me, and I don't hang out with him. We're not like texting. We're not like buddy, but we're Christmas pals, and that's all that matters.
Well, it's been a many years with that manager, so there you go.
And that's all that matters, is they know what you want, and they even if it's you know even if it's an early relationship, if you feel that, you feel that.
Mm-hmm. I also like to focus on, since, a lot of, when I've invited a lot of people on, you said the same thing a lot of other people said, which is like, well, I'm not, really working on anything right now. Meanwhile, just so people watching know, you were in like 2 national commercials a couple of months ago. So whatever to that. But
Months is a strong couple.
oh, please.
That's a strong couple, but thank you. Yeah, you're right. But it's fickle, and
It's easy to, but you were right in what you said before, and that it's, we forget. Like, we're living it in the moment, we feel great, and then like a month can pass with nothing, and you're like, well, that doesn't matter anymore. But we
and
talk about that a lot on here too. It does, and you
yeah.
have to squeeze as much as you can out of it when it's here, and that's it. What's a project that you worked on where you were like feeling really in the zone and feeling like that?
Yeah, I love that, because it shouldn't be all bad. Yeah. It's
I get
not
it though.
right. It's not all, because you're right. Whenever, world premieres are so fun to do, because everybody, it's in the same reason why doing anything grassroots is fun.
Yeah.
There's no pride. There's no and even if there are people that are prolific writers, there's no pride in the process, because it's a first time. So it's just like, sure, give it a go. I'll shout out Kansas City. I'll shout out Larissa Fasthorse, and and doing shows with playwrights that are let's figure this out. Let's just put it together, and do what we came here to do.
Mm-hmm. And
Not
while you were in Kansas City, I know that you were working on a world premiere, and then also invited to do kind of like a reading of a play that they were doing the next season. And you actually didn't end up being in that one. You ended up being in another play that they'd been workshopping at the same time. So obviously there's something that you've got going on in terms of developing new work that is something that people are attracted to. And so what do you think that is?
um
You can humble brag. That's why I'm asking.
I think I also fit into the niche of that theater's new world
Sure.
premieres.
And that's important to know where you fit.
Yes, that's key. Yes, being like, okay, I'm so Shakespeare Moliere. I'm gonna hook myself up at Oregon Shakespeare. I'm just gonna go there. I'm gonna be in that zone for a period of time. They're gonna pick my type up, whether it's your race or it's your ethnicity. I mean, whether it's your creed, whether it's your gender, whether it's your ability to do certain genres of theater. All of these things are things to be aware of for yourself, and not let that define you, but also go like, I think Florida would pick me up right now, or I think Philly kind of has a vibe. Like the theaters that are like in Philly, like with emerging playwrights like James Imes, and an artist like that, where you're like, oh, I want to be around that culture. Go there, do that, and then you will be in those things. It's not going to be serendipitous either. You'll end up in something within that world, because theater is a small world.
Mm-hmm. And so what was it like for you? You've done a lot of work in Kansas City. You've done a lot of work in Pennsylvania too, but talk to people about what that's like. Because pretty soon after school, you started booking things regionally. What's that experience like, being like picked up from where you usually live, going and working on it? Does it help you focus? Is it difficult? Both?
It is helpful for like, I'm gonna just, you get there and there's this feeling of like, I'm just gonna have my binder, and I'm gonna be in my bathrobe, and like hotel, or it's like a farmhouse, or it's whatever it is, but it's always a similar kind of vibe. And then you get there and there's the reality of like, you start making the friends of people in the shows, and you're not sitting at home learning your lines, and you end up like going to that wing place way too many times and spending way too much money and doing the same things you're doing in New York or in wherever.
That is really funny.
Very quickly that happens. But if you can maintain that vibe, that feeling, it really lasts through the run of a show, a month run of a show. I remember like still feeling, even with shows that are more difficult, and ones, even ones that were, you feel that like you still, that magic never goes away. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. Like, even if you're going back all the time, it doesn't go away. You're just like, this is my little nook to like finish this craft. And that like horse blinder mentality is helpful for me, who's anxiety ridden and always thinking about too many things.
Oh my God, all of us. Yeah.
Just focus on that. If you're not being earnest, be earnest. That's all you have to figure out for the next month. If it's a problem, figure that. And then,
Well, I also know that sometimes when you've been away doing shows, you've also kept for your side job, you do a lot of tutoring, you do a lot of things. And I know that you continue doing that when you were away doing these shows. So one of the things that Bruce talks about in his class, which we always link in the description below, is like the 4 hours a week and like keeping your creativity habitual and like scheduled in a way, and like kind of checking off boxes as a way of sticking to it, because things like side jobs all of a sudden are dragging, our attention. So what do you are someone who really always has a lot of things going on, it feels like to me. So how do you keep on top of the business side of things, but also on top of the creative part of like, I actually just need to do this to fuel my creativity?
The typical adage, like, art fuels life, which fuels art, which fuels life. And like, it really is real. Like, Kristen, the woman running for District 9, helped me realize like what I want to be. Like, and you just have to say yes to certain things, because like, and it does mean being reactionary, but so does acting. And my father gave me advice, like, make sure to be action oriented, but you do also need to be reaction oriented and go, when something occurs to me, how does that make me feel? And what am I going to do proactively because of that?
Well, that's what's difficult sometimes about getting really great acting training, because the world doesn't necessarily function like that, but we are taught to take something in and put something back out right away. And that doesn't always serve us in the muggle world, as some people call it, which is interesting.
It happens the way it's supposed to happen. And if you are reacting with like, grace, and doing it like in ways that I haven't figured out, there are outcomes that come that you can never expect than if you really regiment yourself and make it like it can't swerve out of this.
Would you have done anything differently right out of school, like in the first year or so out of school? If anything, what would it be?
Kept doing shows with a theater company that I started.
We did. That was going to come up eventually too. We had a Shakespeare company that we ran for a bit, and honestly, like, tons of different reasons why we stopped doing shows. But one of them is honestly just like a bunch of us started progressing in our careers and joined Actors Equity, and we couldn't afford to run equity shows. But I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Just trusting that and going like, let's be strong in our consistency. Because I saw friends do that, and it really pays off. And it really becomes a staple of the city that you're doing it in. It really can. And it may not become, it might not be awkward Black girl to Insecure, but like, you'll find your niche, and it'll get there, and it'll get to that point when it needs to get there. Trusting your creative work and not going back and saying that can't go out, or
And something really great that our guest Katie talked about last week was like, she said it's easy to say, oh yeah, I'm just like kind of doing a couple week run of the show downtown. Or you can be like, I'm producing a Shakespeare play by myself, with my friends. And this is what's cool about it. It's just like all about, and it's not, and I've said this last week, but I think it's really important because it stuck with me, not to make it appear to be something that it's not, but so we stop downplaying everything that we do.
Yes.
As everybody's learned during the pandemic, what we do is really important. Sure, it's not any more or less important than anything else. It's just its own thing that people need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sure, maybe not everybody needs your thing that you do with your theater company, but maybe someone who came to see it actually did need it.
Right. And you're forgetting them by playing yourself. Yeah. And it's also a part of being an empath, which, most successful actors are, wanting to make people comfortable. What's comfortable? Thinking we're close on the same, we're coming up, we're doing it together. And it's not about you saying I'm here. It's not that at all. It's saying, this is what I'm doing. 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 And all of us supporting that. And whatever that is, if it's important to that person, then by God, it's important.
Like, you've been up for some very major things. How do you, and I've heard this, like the adage of like, you can be sad about it however long it took you to prepare for it. However long you were up for the role, then you can be sad for that long. And I'm sorry, there's this one random regional theater gig that I'm still sad about, and it was 5 years ago.
Yep. And that's because it fit you.
Maybe.
It fit you. It wasn't like it's not Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or whatever it is. It just fit what you were like, I was right.
Mm-hmm. And so I remember, like, you were, again, we don't name names on here, but you were in the room for a Broadway show with a very big writer, actor. It was a big old deal, and you were down to the wire, and it didn't end up happening. So what did you do for yourself? I'm not even 100% sure. Like, what did you do for yourself to deal with that?
It's really easy to go like, oh my God, I was perfect for it. It was big. I did it well. All of the things that are like, it's it. And then it doesn't happen. And, it's not good to go, director's an idiot, or they don't know what they're missing.
Yeah.
They know what they're missing. They know that. They know they didn't.
They chose that.
They actively said, we're going to miss out on that guy. We don't want him.
Mm-hmm.
And that is fine, because they don't know you from Joe Schmo. You know what you can do. And like, somebody or you will put that on the platform it needs to be on. And somebody could happen to guess it, and like randomly, and you can get it. And not because they knew you so well, but they're like, I'm good at guessing, because the best casting directors are.
I think that mentality is kind of why I find on things that you ended up not getting cast on, you're like, I don't want to see that. I am drawn to those projects like a moth to the flame. Like, I have to go. I have to like make myself sad and like read the program and be like, wow, imagine if this had been my bio in here. Like,
when you fall,
yeah,
you have to like really rub it in your, like, I have to feel the extent of this pain, and then I can let it go.
Yeah.
That's a process. As long as it doesn't bring you too low, which I don't think it does.
I think it was at one point, and I don't do it as much as I used to.
Who doesn't, though?
Yeah.
I think it's impossible to say when something really lines up with you. There's a tactic to make it not matter.
Mm-hmm. We've taken up a lot of your time. I like to close with this question. As things are coming back, you can talk about how you're feeling about things coming back, or also just like down the line, what is the dream project, dream role, dream thing you want to feel, anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to get back into like theater. I feel like it's gonna feel weird, like getting back onto a stage and being like, oh, whoa, like that'll be. I'm very excited for that. Again, everybody's in their own path, but there's a feeling of like, see what you got, just like go for it. That's why the podcasts are blowing up, because I love the fact that people are like, I'm gonna make content. I'm gonna make content, and nobody's gonna tell me to stop.
Yeah, I really like seeing all these threads that come up week to week, because we've talked about that other weeks too, is that with social media, even though it can be stressful at times, Also, social media does not require an invitation or anybody casting you in anything. You can make anything at any time if you choose to.
That's the even playing field. Exactly. We have in with each other. Exactly. We
Yeah.
have that. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's Awkward Black Girl. You know, that was a YouTube like series. She was like, I don't need nobody. Luckily for HBO,
Yeah.
they found her.
All right. That's going to do it for us this week. We will be back next week with another wonderful industry guest. If I can manage to speak, it's the heat wave. Everybody out here, stay cool, stay hydrated. Please follow all of the links in the description below for Bruce's class, for the first chapter of his book. We will also link all of Chris's information as well. If you want to watch his stuff, we will link his website. We will link his socials. And we can't wait to hear what is next as everything starts to open back up again. We hope to see you on our televisions again soon. I think we will.
Bye, Carol.